Hey everyone,
Camera.
we're gonna be doing a Nightmare review today, but Quartz has a kind of a special thing to announce. We have our very first Twitch subscriber, so you want to shout out to him?
Okay, cool. Sorry, the settings for my own mic is different from you guys, so I just got mine unmuted. Let me pull up his name real quick. But yeah, now that we are affiliated on Twitch, if you guys have a Twitch Prime, you can feel free to drop your Twitch Prime subscription on our channel. We've just renamed our channel to Go Stadium to match with the rebranding on Discord as well. And the YouTube name has also been updated, so make sure that you are following the new names and not the old ones. Let me find this guy. You guys can go ahead and start the stream first, and if the subscribers
Sure.
show up, we'll give him a shout out.
So we have a little under 30 teams to go through today. We're not going to be doing regionals. Tentatively, we might be doing some at the end of the week, but no promises. Our schedules have been a little bit conflicted lately, so we're also going to be doing things a little different. We've reorganized the teams. Hopefully this will save time. If it works out, we'll be doing this again in the future. A lot of these teams are somewhat similar, and we're going to be starting with the triple psychic. So the first two teams, Instinctual 93 and Scarlord, if you guys are on. We have Xatu, Raichu, Claydol. Then for the two dark types, Alolan Raticate, Shiftry, and Toxicroak as our fighting type. So I'll leave it open to Polly if you're on.
Yep.
What do you think about this team?
Sorry, I'm still trying to pull it up.
Yeah, Xatu, Raichu, Claydol, Raticate, Shiftry, Toxicroak.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I prefer my darks not to be weak to the same other dark. So, Alolan Muck, can hit both of those darks. Can cover both of those darks. It's not like a terrible hole because you have Claydol that could also win in the no shield scenario, and Raichu could win with shields without even needing the bait. So, I mean, it's not it's not like a deal breaker, but that's the first hole I see. I think a lot of people are switching to Shiftry over Alolan Muck because of the whole attack rat find. That some people, I'm not sure actually who found it. Gots definitely was the one that I saw talk about it the most. But I think that's why you see people moving towards Shiftry as their dark that beats Alolan Raticate.
Yeah, one thing about Claydol is he definitely makes someone hesitant to run both Toxicroak and Alolan Raichu. And because Toxicroak is so useful, it's more likely that they're going to bench Raichu against Claydol teams. So Xatu is a little bit easier to use in this particular lineup. So I guess that's one thing that it has going for it. That being said, I do kind of agree with that dark poison issue, especially Alolan Muck. But Alolan Raichu is able to shield bait it and win, right?
I think it can win. Polly was just saying it can win without a bait.
Oh, without?
I think I'm trying to pull that sim up right now. And I know Xatu also has a decent, I think, one shield matchup with Alolan Muck as well.
Yeah.
And
Now,
just gonna add in my thing. I ran nearly an identical team, but at the last minute I actually swapped out Shiftry for Drapion because I knew going into it that most of the dark poisons would deal super effective damage to Shiftry, and I wanted something that can deal super effective damage to what I expected to be the most common dark type. So Infestation of Drapion actually does double super effective damage against Shiftry, and since it takes only 4 to charge it off the tail and 6 for Crunch or Sludge Bomb. It's very quick and damage just stacks up over time. And then with that team, I ended up tying for first with 2 other people.
Interesting.
Okay, so
with-
I just pulled up the sim, by the way.
Okay.
And Alolan Raichu can just double Wild Charge and beat Alolan Muck in the one shield, assuming Alolan Muck is running Poison Jab.
But which Alolan Muck set are you checking? Because Acid Spray is different than the other variants, right?
I was checking Sludge Wave Dark Pulse.
I wonder if Acid Spray does anything differently, though. Because, if I remember correctly, you're not left with that much health afterwards.
And then also the Xatu Alolan Muck matchup, assuming Alolan Muck's running Poison Jab, Dark Pulse, Sludge Wave. In the one shield, it comes down to a charge move priority between Xatu and Alolan Muck on who wins that. So I guess considering that in the one shield Xatu either like loses or beats it based on charge move priority, and the fact that Alolan Raichu can beat Alolan Muck without a bait even, I guess it's maybe okay that both the Darks are weak to Alolan Muck, but again, I kind of agree that I'd rather not have them both weak to the same thing if possible.
Yeah. But even being weak to them, I mean, like Alolan Raticate's pretty close match with Alolan Muck. And I know a lot of people are starting to shift towards extra sensory on Claydol, which means you'll be able to charge up Earthquake a little bit faster. So Muck doesn't have like the easiest time going against a Earthquake Claydol. I mean, it does need a shield. And then of course you have Toxicroak, so you do have options against Muck. They just don't happen to be in the dark types.
Right.
I ended up running extra sensory on my Claydol as well for my Nightmare Cup. And you don't need to kill Toxicroak like too quickly. I mean, you're gonna win against it regardless, but it's kind of nice to kill it slowly because you can get more energy banked up for the next matchup.
Cool. Yeah.
Mason, you
So-
want to give us a little intro of how your cup went
Um,
and the rest of your day?
yeah, sorry, I was muted for the first part. I'm muting over here, but I don't know. It went well. I mean, do you want to know about like the team that I ran? Didn't we run like the same team except for one Pokemon?
No, we
You
ran
and
we ran the same team. It's just against this team up here, we ran Drapion instead of Shiftry.
Yeah. It went well.
I'm saying if you had like advice for this team.
Let's see.
Xatu, Raichu, Claydol, Eradicate, Shiftry, Toxicroak. That's the team.
Yeah, I'd like a Dark Poison in there instead of Shiftry. Or Alolan Eradicate. Just pick one and replace it with the Dark Poison.
Why is that?
Because I don't know. I kind of like the Poison subtyping. Because it resists fighting. And even though you're going to lose it against Toxicroak as well. I guess with Drapion, I mean, if Toxicroak switches in too late, you can get off like 2 or 3 Aqua Tails and sometimes even draw a shield from Toxicroak. So.
Okay.
So is
Well-
that liking Drapion specifically, or the poison dark types in general? Like, would you slot
I
in
think-
a Alolan Muck or Skuntank, or would you only suggest Drapion?
I played around with the Alolan Muck and Drapion. I like the both of them. I don't really like Skuntank too much in this cup at all. It's hard to give an unbiased answer just because I like Drapion so much, you know. And I did play with Muck a lot, the Snarl Poison Jab or Snarl Acid Spray. I just ended up replacing it with Alolan Raticate. But
All right.
I think that the Dark Poison is just kind of like, I don't know. It's a staple.
It seems
Yeah.
necessary, or at least highly recommended. The only thing I mean, if you'd want to swap out, you could potentially swap out the Claydol for a Shadow Ball Focus Blast Hypno. But again, that's Legacy, and that's a little harder to come by.
I mean, the more I think about it, it is kind of functional. It's just that we're like end game scenario, you don't have a great answer to a fighting type. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I think without Claydol, though, you don't have that Earthquake to suppress the eventual Dark Poison that you might bait out.
right.
Yeah, but then that's what Focus Blast is for.
Yeah, but I guess the difference is Focus Blast takes longer to charge, right? Versus Claydol with Extra Sensory.
True. I mean, for Confusion, I think they're the same though.
For
Right,
Confusion.
but we were talking about the caveat of running Extra Sensory because
Right.
you don't really need that increased damage against Toxicroak. And you know, like against Darks and Psychics, it's going to be resisted anyway, so it's probably maybe better to go with the better energy gain.
Hey, Krydos, I went ahead and muted you. If you need to say anything, just DM one of us, and we'll bring you up. We're gonna move on to the next team. Balam, he had Xatu, Raichu, Bronzong. Again, Raticate, Shiftry, and Toxicroak. So basically, same thing except Bronzong for Claydol. We have a Confusion user now.
So looking
So-
at this, the swap of Claydol to Bronzong makes it much more enticing for an opponent to bring in Alolan Raichu. Because you're flipping something that walls Raichu to something that gets walled by Raichu.
Basically, yeah. And I think it's even less favorable for the Dark Poison. I mean, it's more favorable, right? Because Muk still beats Bronzong. It's Skuntank that has trouble with it. And Drapion still normally beats Bronzong too, right? There's
I
some
believe
exceptions.
so.
Yeah, Muck loses the 0 shield to Bronzong, and Drapion ties in no shields. But they both
Yeah.
beat it with shields. Or in 1 shield, I mean.
And Bronzong can't really farm Toxicroak. Because its Confusion does too much damage to actually farm. Versus Claydol with Extra Sensory can. And then Toxicroak can give it quite a bit of damage if it happens to have a Mud Bomb charged thing.
Yeah, because Mud Bomb's super effective. And also, for the few counters it does take from Toxicroak, they are doing neutral damage.
Yeah. I'd actually say that a Toxicroak with energy would be really brutal for this team. Because it can do a lot of damage to Raticate, Shiftry, Mud Bomb Bronzong, Mud Bomb Raichu, and Sludge Bomb Xatu. And of course Toxicroak itself.
I think Toxicroak with energy in any situation is going to do a lot of work.
Yeah,
That's true.
but not the
Except
same
for, like,
against like
Not same
Hypno,
against
Claydol.
Claydol. Right.
Yeah. So that'd be something to consider.
So I guess my one question, which is kind of applies to this team and the previous team, is we were talking about maybe dropping one of the dark types in favor of a dark poison, either Drapion or Alolan Muck. But like, let's say you did drop Shiftry for Drapion, for example. Does that make it either of these teams too weak to Alolan Raticate then?
I don't think you can drop Shiftry for Alolan Muck here because of Alolan Raichu. at least with the Bronzong team. Because I think if
Yeah.
you drop that for a Alolan Muck, say, to try to have a Dark that can beat Alolan Raticate, now I'm like safe switching to Alolan Raichu every time.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, I think Shiftry is kind of essential here because they are running the Xatu and Bronzong, which both lose.
Right.
Yeah. If I had to summarize any recommendations to this team, I would probably drop Bronzong. It just seems like a lot of your problems would be solved swapping Zong for like Claydol.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed
previous.
is like the Sims show Bronzong beating Xatu, but when I practiced with it, like if I was switching in, if they switched to Xatu and then I switched in Bronzong, that's a tough matchup actually. Especially if you're switching in. So I don't think Bronzong is quite as reliable against Xatu as I would like it to be. Plus, it gets
ominous.
Plus, it gets walled by Alolan Raichu. So I just didn't like its matchups as much against the other Psychic types, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Bronzong either in this. But yeah, would you guys recommend any other drops if you wanted to absolutely keep Bronzong? Polly?
I was just going to say the one advantage Bronzong does have over Claydol is it doesn't lose as hard to Shiftry. But, you know, I mean, with this setup, you also have Xatu. So, I don't know. I just love how Claydol just deters that Tox a Raichu core so much. So if I was running...
Yeah, it's very high risk.
Yeah. So if I was running triple Psychics, that's probably the one I would throw in with Xatu and a Raichu.
Right, I would agree, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, like it's not a bad team by any means. So you could definitely run a team and be successful, with no changes at all.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to run that, if you wanted to run that Dark Poison, then you'd either have to drop Alolan Raticate or do a double shift, where you drop Shiftry and swap Bronzong to Claydol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can move on to the next team, unless there's any questions from Twitch or YouTube.
We have a question from Twitch side, tagging Yan himself, saying, "Who besides Valarash are the rest of these guys?"
Who what?
I don't know. Who are these guys? Who are we anyway?
I don't know. There's
We're
some
just
stuff that we've said before we can't say on stream again, so we'll get formal introductions one day.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of weirdos that have a strange obsession with Camerupt.
Yeah.
And Wobbuffet and Moist.
We just know life it, spreadsheets and stuff. We don't actually play.
Yeah, I'm just an acquaintance of Valarash. That's how everybody knows me.
Yeah. and Valarash is the best player in the world by far. So we all bow down to him and he calls the shots. All right, we got the next team.
It's
Mike
Mike's
MF,
team.
Xatu, Claydol, Bronzong, Alolan Muck, Raticate, and Toxicroak. So, first and only team without Alolan Raichu. So what do you guys think?
Biggest
Tristan.
thing. Oh, yeah.
All right, Beagold.
Okay. Biggest thing I see here is a poison jab and it's called acid spray Alolan Muck. It would tear through 4, if not 5 out of the 6 of that team. Once the acid spray debuff goes through. mean, sure, you got to watch out for the Earthquake from Claydol and the Flash Cannon from Bronzong, but and my Bomb Toxicroak, but at the same time, you can kind of pressure them out of the way as well.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that would accept taking a wild charge to the face would be Claydol, so that team seems fairly weak to Alolan Raichu as well, especially shield down.
Wait, so why do you think that an Acid Spray Alolan Muck is so much of a bigger threat to this team than any other team?
Well, because you Acid Spray into Dark Pulse, right? And Acid Spray removes the resistance on Bronzong, so Poison Jab hits neutral, and Bronzong doesn't have too much health in the first place, or bulk. Kind of the same thing for Toxicroak. It turns a double resistance into a single, and then you just Dark Pulse the rest of it, provided you survive.
I see the Alolan Raichu spot as like kind of like a safe switch against some teams. I'm not sure how you would prevent rock, paper, scissors against most teams, right? Bronzong might help a little bit, but like on a bad lead against, say, just any generic 2-2-2, what would you guys even have there in the back to switch in? Like, does Bronzong do any good switching in as he did in Kingdom?
I mean, not as much per se. It's not bad though.
I think Claydol's the better late game confusion user, and while it is kind of gutsy, I think maybe even one round of Bronzong lead with Xatu in the middle, I guess, and then Claydol at the back for that like final nuke capability. While it is very weak to the dark types, they're not gonna. I mean, you can still probably burn a shield with Heavy Slam, and then you'll burn a shield with either Ominous Wind or Aerial Ace on Xatu, and then just Earthquake.
Triple Psychic in one go.
Yeah,
that's that's big baller plays right there, man.
Oh, it's gutsy and unexpected, right? They think they get rid of one psychic, you bring in your second. You think they get rid of the second, you bring in your third.
Right. Pretty glad they don't bring Umbreon.
True.
Yeah. Would you guys have any like very clear recommendations to upgrade this team, or do you think that doesn't necessarily exist?
I said it when I was muted because my dogs. Thanks, guys. But I don't see I don't see why you would want to bring both Bronzong and Claydol. I think you'd want to choose between one of the two, and then swap it for something with a little more utility. Because you're just, I don't know. They both fill a similar role, I guess. I mean, we've highlighted the differences between the two already in this, but like. Primary role is countering Toxicroak, so I guess I don't see what bringing the two of them in the same lineup would do. You know?
I agree with that. I mean, the only counter argument is that running double confusion user is similar to like in Kingdom Cup the people that ran Bastiodon and Steelix, where they very rarely, if ever, ran both in the same team of 3, but it seemed to work having that flexibility. So I guess that could be the argument to running the double confusion users, even though you wouldn't use them in the same trio. But I guess my main counter argument to that is that you also already have Xatu as a Toxicroak counter. So I'm not sure you necessarily need 3 different varieties of Toxicroak counters in your team.
Yeah. Unless you're serving slightly different roles. That's why Alolan Raichu is so popular.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess my main. Or go ahead.
I was just gonna say, personally, I see the main problem with bringing Bronzong and Claydol on the same team is, the moment I see that, I understand. Okay, if I use Zatu, I put 3 of their team immediately. Bronzong might win in the 1 shield situation, but it loses to Zatu in the 2 shield situation, and that's going to be critical for Elite. If they brought 2 fightings, then that's 4 positive matchups for me. It makes my selection real easy.
Well, we'll move on to the next team.
AJ, hold on.
Yeah,
Do you want to?
We had a
Yeah.
couple questions on the from Discord. So the first was someone was asking Crunch or Sludge Bomb on Drapion in a 3 psychic lineup.
So, Crunch or Sludge Bomb? Honestly, Crunch Aquatail has been the most preferred set, just because most of the darks have they don't demolish the psychics as much as you'd think, except for like Umbreon. So Crunch is kind of useful to deal with its primary role, and it's somewhat low energy too, so that helps. Some people are running Sludge Bomb because it tends to nuke stuff, and it gives a lot of good neutral damage coverage. But whether it's on a 3 psychic team or not, I don't know that matters.
I need your phone for a
so
second.
much.
The big matchup I recall, this is just off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure Drapion with Crunch. I mean, it definitely beats Zatu, but with Sludge Bomb, it ties Zatu in no shields, and then it can even potentially tie Zatu if it doesn't get the bait in 1 shield. So it going from like a solid counter to one of the most common psychics to now potentially tying, in both of those critical shields scenarios. I think that's too much to give up just for like nuke ability.
Yeah.
On the outside, though.
There were more questions in the live stream chat.
Yeah, and there's one other which someone was saying, are we still set on Confusion on Claydol versus Extrasensory? And I guess they must have missed the previous discussion where we were kind of leaning towards Extrasensory because it still beats Toxicroak just fine, while actually letting you gain more energy from that matchup. And also just gives you better energy gains overall, which allows you to get to Earthquake faster.
Okay. And any other live stream questions?
That was it from the Discord, but
there was a comment about maybe the Bronzong and the previous team might be running Feint Attack. If anyone wants to just touch on that real quick.
Oh, Feint Attack.
They were saying, they were saying that the Bronzong and Claydol, maybe the Bronzong was running Feint Attack as sort of an anti-psychic.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I've tried it. You just no.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Long
you want to
story
surprise
short-
somebody, sure, but
Yeah, surprise them with their win, Congrats.
Why is my Toxicroak not dead? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so next team, unless there's anything else, questions wise? No?
Let's see. It looks like the guy Mike MF, whose team we just reviewed, is on the audio channel. So let's just see if there's anything he wants to say about his team before we move on.
Okay.
Mike, can you hear us? Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, he marked himself muted, so
I'll just
Mike,
tag him
if
real
you,
quick.
Yeah, if you do want to say something, just tap tag one of us in the live stream chat. We're gonna move on to the next team, and then we'll just cycle back to you if you need say something or ask us a question.
The next team is 2 of them are running the same. So the first is Karthik
Borjaj.
Yeah. And then the second's Ultimate Mayhem 5. They're running Triple Psychic with Zatu, Alolan Raichu, and Claydol. Double Dark with Skunk Tank and Shiftry. And then Toxicroak is a solo fighting.
Yeah. It's kind of somewhat what we've been recommending, except the Dark Poison is Skuntank, as opposed to one of the other two. I'm not so sure. I kind of agree with you guys. I'm not so sure with Skuntank and Nightmare, just because it's coverage. I mean, Flamethrower doesn't really add anything that like Aqua-Tail, for example, doesn't. And then you know, Crunch, Drapion has it too, so it's another low energy. And then you got Poison Jab, which isn't the best coverage as far as the dark types go.
And then let's talk
I'd
about
say,
why not to use Bite.
Yeah, just Bite is like, it's comparable to Razor. Isn't it the same as Razor Leaf damage, which is like way less energy? Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Or is it a little? Yeah.
I think it's slightly less than Razor Leaf on damage and a lot worse.
Yeah. It's just the bottom line is Bite takes so long to charge that it really hinders it as a whole, and it removes a lot of its shield pressure. Would you guys agree swapping Skuntank for perhaps Drapion or Alolan Muck would be pretty safe for this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was even a recent Reddit post about I don't know if y'all follow the guy that like runs the usage statistics and like how successful Pokemon within their cups, but I remember the leading line was like Skuntank has Skun tanked in usage and in performance. Or not necessarily in usage, but in performance. It was a really interesting read.
Yeah, like a graph for Twilight going up, and then it just skyrockets down as soon as Nightmare is launched. Is that basically what it is?
Oh, and back to the fast move thing, I looked it up, and Razor Leaf is 5.5 damage per turn and 2 energy per turn, and then Bite is also 2 energy per turn, but it only does 4 damage per turn.
Yeah.
So it has the same like terrible energy gain, but it outputs less damage.
And that's a pretty big difference.
And the biggest problem, in my opinion, with Bite here is if you're running Bite on really any of the darks, it makes you a better counter to Psychic types, but on the flip side, it means you have almost no chance against other darks. Because that Bite is, there's such low energy gain and it's being resisted. So you're not going to do so hot against other darks with Bite.
Yeah. Ultimate Mayhem, I think you just joined the channel. We were just talking about your team specifically. If you're on and you have a mic, just speak up at any time. I think the bottom line is we would swap Skuntank for one of the other dark poisons. We kind of skew towards Drapion. And I'm biased towards Alolan Raticate. I just love it so much. But Shiftry does a pretty good job too.
And I think, you can kind of pair them however you want, but it seems like Shiftry and Drapion kind of pair a little better, just because Drapion beats the other Dark Poisons, and Dark Poison beats Shiftry. And then Alolan Muck might pair a little better with Eradicate, just because Alolan Muck helps give you better Eradicate coverage, which you're losing if you're not running Shiftry.
That's fair.
But so that was kind of the general thinking, but you can obviously mix and match them a little bit how you like.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Mayhem says they're trying to find their mic.
Yeah.
So I guess we can continue on, and if they find it, then we can circle back.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll do exactly that. Next team, we got Balls of Sfeel. Xatu, Alolan Raichu, Hypno. That's a Shadow Ball Hypno. Alolan Raticate, Shiftry, and Toxicroak. So, first Hypno, I think the biggest thing Hypno offers is it just nukes Toxicroak, and Focus Blast is able to nuke the dark types if you get it charged up, so shields down is pretty nice.
Well,
or
I
if
just
you
want to
can
add it nukes everything besides Umbreon.
You're right, yep.
Umbreon can
one-shots,
actually
right?
tank it. Yeah, I think it one-shots everything except for Umbreon, because Umbreon's just so tanky that it can survive.
Yeah. So that's a tremendous amount of shield pressure. If you charge it up all the way to Focus Blast and then do Shadow Ball instead, there's a really, really good chance that they're going to shield anyway. So that's something going for it.
Well, and Shadow Ball's
Hypno
a pretty,
doesn't.
Shadow Ball's a pretty good nuke against other psychic types too.
That's true. Yeah.
So
and
Hypno
then
does
it's very
have the
bulky.
coverage.
Yeah. The other thing I like about Hypno is that it outperforms the Sims a lot more. So when we did our analysis, we kind of talked Hypno down a little bit and put it more towards honorable mentions. After scrimming a little bit more with Hypno, I think it outperforms the Sims just because it's so good at like switching in. And if the other guy doesn't switch out Toxicroak fast enough, he basically lost it even with a lot of energy. So that's a plus. And then you have that little bit of energy gain and possibly slip in a Shadow Ball or a Focus Blast against the other guy's counter. That being said, with Hypno in there, do you guys see any holes in this team specifically? As opposed to Claydol?
Not really, because they're running, or they have Shiftry, which helps also counter Alolan Raichu. So it's not like they're lacking a like wall to Alolan Raichu.
Right. I would think that with this team composition, you'd expect, because Alolan Raichu is so popular, you'd expect a fair amount of Shiftry. And because Toxicroak is also pretty popular, a Shiftry Toxicroak combo is pretty reliable. So you might be expecting a lot of Zatus against you. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's safe to
Yep.
say.
Yeah.
I do like Shiftry and like what he does and what he has to offer. It's just in the same sense of bringing Toxicroak and Alolan Raichu against Claydol, it's difficult to bring Toxicroak and Shiftry against Xatu, which is one of the reasons why Shiftry didn't end up making the cut for my team. But it's something to consider when bringing both Toxicroak and Shiftry, that you need a very strong answer to Xatu.
Yeah, especially just considering how popular Xatu is. It seems like Toxicroak is the most used mon in this cup, and Xatu seems to be a close second. So you kind of need to expect it to be on your opponent's 6 and often in their 3.
Yeah. So I guess that would be one thing within this team, is it makes you somewhat, your opponent somewhat predictable, and that they'd probably bring Xatu, right? If they've thought it all out.
Right, which means you might be a little bit reliant to bring Alolan Raichu on your team. And then if you're running Shiftry, Toxicroak, and Alolan Raichu, then you don't have like a hard counter to Toxicroak, which means depending on how like energy and shields and stuff play out, the Toxicroak could do some damage against you.
Right. Or you could just take a risk, expect him to use Xatu, and then you play it out differently. So.
Right.
All right. Do you guys have anything else to add about Balls of Spiel's team?
I do have a question for him if he's on stream. I'm not sure why people like to stray away from the dark poisons, because the only dark type damage that he has on his entire team is Raticate's Crunch. or potentially foul play if Shiftry ever gets to it.
Yeah. I know with me, it's just that I like Umbreon in a sense, but it's so farmable, you know? Like once you get that Toxicroak against it, because it's so high in HP that, you know, like you just end up farming it a lot. It is a really good Pokemon and it's got its role for sure. It's just a matter of the specific ones that are able to run dark fast moves. I don't like them necessarily in my team comps. That's
Okay,
my hesitant.
So Balls's Sphere responded and said that they haven't invested in a Drapion, and it sounds like they don't really have the resources for that. But they said they're open to swapping into either of the other dark poisons.
Yeah.
So then, what would you guys suggest? Alolan Muck then?
Both would do just fine.
Maybe.
I guess for just a little bit of extra dark type.
I mean, I kind of like this team. I don't necessarily have a problem with this team specifically. You know, like all of the things that we mentioned are things to maneuver around. They're not deal breakers. I mean, would you disagree?
Exactly. No, I completely agree. None of it's critical error, mistake, or anything.
And Mason, the other big thing is, it seems like you were thinking of dropping Shiftry in favor of a dark poison, right?
Right. Yeah, I really do like Alolan Raticate.
Right. So then, if they drop Shiftry, then they don't have like anything to wall Alolan Raichu, because they're running Hypno as that confusion user. So if they drop Shiftry, then Alolan Raichu becomes a little bit of a safe switch.
I was thinking of Snarl Amok.
Oh, Snarl Amok. Interesting.
Yeah. Usually when I've been mentioning Alolan Muck, I usually think of Snarl.
Yeah. Which is not what most people are using, at least.
I think at least what I've been referring to has been Poison Jab. Alolan Muck.
I hit 2 of them in my tournament.
Snarls.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did you hit any poison jabs or no?
No, not poison jab.
Acid spray?
Yes.
Sludge Wave actually. One was acid spray, one was Sludge Wave.
Interesting. Yeah, the only thing I could see if they added in Snarl Amok is then it's a little weak to Alolan Raticate, right? Because that doesn't do well against Alolan Raticate.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
So,
because then you'd only have Toxicroak in the mirror.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay. So yeah.
Okay, so now I do see the reason between that pairing. I just wasn't sure on that earlier.
Yeah. So
I think another reason why some people are moving towards Shiftry is because I think more people are actually worried about the attack rat hitting that sort of break point against Alolan Muck and winning the one shield. And so I think I'd assume why more people are moving towards Shiftry.
just generally, Alolan Raticate is becoming more popular, and Shiftry is more of a slam dunk. So than Alolan Muck is.
Mm-hmm.
Our next team is Trainer Rememco. We had one listed, but he revised it, so I'm going to go ahead and read out the revised team. It's still triple psychic, in that he has Xatu, Raichu, and Claydol, which has been pretty popular. But instead, for his dark types, he's got Spiritomb and Alolan Raticate, and still Toxicroak. So, biggest difference is Alolan Raticate and Spiritomb. I know a lot of people have been running Spiritomb with the triple darks. Have any of you guys encountered dual darks with Spiritomb instead?
Yeah, I scrimmed against someone running dual darks with Spiritomb with triple psychics, and it just makes running dark types against them so appealing. Because you know that your dark type should potentially be able to beat all 3 of their psychics plus their Spiritomb. And then depending on what their second psychic is, and depending what their second dark is and what darks you're running, your dark might even be able to counter their other dark. So it just makes running a dark type, or even running 2 dark types against them in a team of 3 really appealing.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
I would
Ship?
say that this team definitely baits out Shiftry.
Yeah, that was. Mhm.
I would absolutely run Shiftry against this team. Maybe not lead, but I would definitely run it. So
Honestly, even Shiftry and Umbreon together, 2 darks, and then Xatu or Confusion User to take care of the Toxicroak.
yeah,
Seems pretty solid.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you can, against a team like this, it's pretty comfortable running double dark plus Xatu or a Confusion User, and
yeah,
if you can get your Toxie counter to take out their Toxie, it's kind of a clean sweep from there.
yeah. An Umbreon Shiftry would be very brutal because Umbreon basically flames out a Toxicroak. You know, either shields or whatever. And then after that, it's just going to be a really hard matchup for you. So that's definitely a weakness. I don't know if it's a deal breaker. It might just be.
I think I have seen maybe 2 dark teams with Spiritomb work that are 2/2/2 rather than 3P. Just because it gives you that extra fighter to sort of deter that dark, that double dark lineup from your opponent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Is I feel like running 2 dark with Spiritomb, if it's triple psychic, just isn't as ideal. But yeah, if you run the balanced 2/2/2, then it's not as much of a problem because that second fighter gives you an additional answer to their dark types.
Yeah.
And you can't just bank on, oh, if I take out Toxicroak, then I can sweep, because for all you know, they're running double fighting in their 3, and they have a Lucario or a Poliwrath or something in the back pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, he did post one team a little earlier on in the month. It was Xatu, Alolan, Raichu as 2 Psychic. His third was actually Alakazam. Then he
Right.
had Drapion, Shiftry, and Poliwrath. So I kind of understand where he's coming from with Alakazam, because if you did have the early 2016 Legacy Dazzling Gleam, that would be a huge surprise to most things. But chances are you wouldn't be around to actually get that off, because Alakazam is so glossy. I don't think you'd have enough time to charge up a Confusion, and Psycho Cut just barely.
Alakazam is actually 2 of my script partners use it religiously, and it's actually Psycho Cut is the fastest energy gaining move in the game, alongside Mudshot and
Thundershock.
something else. Yes, Thundershock. So it gets to its charge moves so quick. It's one of those things that like makes up for its lack of bulk. So definitely just be aware of opposing Alakazam and with how quickly it can possibly get to Dazzling Gleam. And it also has that shield bait option with like Fire Punch.
Or Shadow Ball as well.
Or hell, it could even Focus Blast you. So
Yeah.
Wait,
Got a ton of
Alakazam
crit.
has Fire Punch?
Yeah,
Is
and
that-
the
Yeah.
new charge move update.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I mean, it's
So,
definitely an
so it has
awesome
what?
pick.
Future Sight, Dazzling Gleam as Legacy.
No,
Fire
Psychic
Punch.
and Dazzling Gleam are Legacy. Then Future Sight, Focus Blast, Fire Punch, and Shadow Ball are all active.
Oh man, so that's like charge move roulette there, where you have no idea what your opponent's running.
Paired with Psycho Cut, it's kind of exciting at times. You never know what you're gonna get hit with.
Oh man.
Anyways,
Yeah,
we were
Most of the
saying.
matchup with Fire Punch though.
I guess the only problem with running Psycho Cut is I'm just curious, like how well does it counter Toxicroak then?
I would
Mason,
imagine a
did you-
Mud Bomb is enough to nuke an Alakazam pretty hard. Because it's so frail.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Alakazam actually wins in one shield. But
But in any case, Alakazam is at least a wild card. I guess to consider. So, we gotta pick up a little bit the pace. So I'm just gonna move on to the next team. Ace Solus has another Xatu, Raichu, Bronzong lineup. He only has one Dark type, which is Umbreon, and then Toxicroak, Lucario. So 2 fighting, 1 Dark, 3 Psychic. Immediately, I see a very favorable matchup for Shiftry and Alolan Raticate. Would you guys agree?
To an extent, but he does have the double fighting to
Yeah.
potentially.
Would you bring 2 fighting though, generally speaking? I mean,
I did it when I first started scrimming for Nightmare. I did run some double fighting with Lucario and Toxicroak, and it can work because Lucario takes neutral from both Psychic and Flying moves, and has that Shadow Ball to hit back at Psychic types. But the problem is that Lucario is just so frail that it's often hard to in the one shield get to a double Shadow Ball kind of situation. But it can work, especially if you leave Lucario in the back, and they take out your Toxicroak, and then maybe your Lucario finishes off a Dark type or something and has an energy advantage to nuke a Psychic with a late game Shadow Ball, but it's just not consistent enough. But it is something you can run.
yeah. All right. Any other, I guess, things to consider against this team as far as just running 1 Dark type?
Spiritomb, maybe. Sorry, Ominous Wind boosted Spiritomb.
That's a thing to consider for every team.
Yeah.
True.
I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying.
Yeah, fair.
I guess the biggest problem is it means you're relying on Umbreon as your answer to Psychic types for the most part, which makes you a little predictable. And if they're running Shiftry or Alolan Raticate, that means that Mon could potentially take out your Umbreon and your Psychic type.
All right. We're gonna move on to the triple Dark teams. That being said, I kind of want to give a pause if there's any questions from the live stream chat or Twitch. Quartz, I think there's a question from Twitch, right?
Yeah, somebody on Twitch chat says against that team, Alolan Raticate does well. It beats the Psychic types and Umbreon, which is true. And then you just pair it with a Confusion user or an Xatu to take out the 2 fighting types. And you can just bring in a 3rd.
And Choose Master had a question.
Yeah, it wasn't a question, but it was a comment where he pointed out that Kadabra has Confusion and Psycho Cut, and for charge moves it has Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, which is not Legacy, and Psybeam to still have Psychic damage, with mainly energy gaining Psycho Cut. So yeah, I guess Kadabra is another one of those potential wild cards, but I don't know. There's a reason that some of these other Psychic types are seeing so much play, because they're generally the better options.
Yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, you guys ready to move on to the triple Darks?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Most of these triple Dark teams are Xatu and Alolan Raichu. So unless otherwise specified, I'm gonna assume that that's what we're running. Okay. First teams are Mega Batman and Jaregs, Skuntank, Spiritomb, Shiftry, and Toxicroak.
So,
What do you think, Tristan?
I mean, I think this is a fairly standard triple dark team. I think most triple darks are liking to run Xatu with Alolan Raichu, and I think the better balanced triple dark teams are running Spiritomb. But again, I think we come back to that discussion of Skuntank being the inferior of the 3 dark poisons. And I'm guessing maybe they're just running it because they already had one from Twilight. But I think swapping it to either Alolan Muck or Drapion might be a better choice.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's just the problem with Skuntank, really. It doesn't carry over as well as in the Twilight.
But I think besides that, it's a decent team.
Yeah. Yeah, the Spiritomb threat is interesting, especially in these triple dark teams. We're going to see a lot of Spiritomb in there. It's when it's most popular, just because it is able to counter Toxicroak. So, anything else you guys would want to comment on this team?
I mean, the regular triple dark formula seems to be Spiritomb, a dark poison type, and then either Shiftry or Alolan Raticate. So,
yeah,
if you have that, you usually pair it with Xatu, Alolan Raichu, and Toxicroak anyways to round it out. And then it's really whatever you feel most comfortable playing with as your 2 dark flex spots, so to speak.
Incidentally, that's GD 350's team. This is the next team. Instead of Shiftry, he's got Alolan Raticate, and it's otherwise the same. I see the same problem, mainly Skuntank, not being able to fill the same role as, Drapion or Alolan Muck do with their coverage. So I'd say either or, right? Alolan Raticate or Shiftry, and then you just swap Skuntank for one of the other dark poisons, and you're probably in better shape.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean that team though is weak to Alolan Raticate without, say Alolan Muck or something like that.
The Shiftry team does a little better.
Right.
I guess the Alolan Raticate might pair better with Alolan Muck, and the Shiftry team might pair a little bit better with Drapion, if you has gun to the head kind of thing. But
right, which is kind of what we talked about before.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Drapion and Alolan Raticate, I think are 2 of the best darks. So I won't fault anyone for bringing both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Drapion's expensive.
And I mean, the thing is, I think that even though Alolan Raticate beats Drapion, Drapion still does decent with that super effective infestation fast move and the Aqua Tail spam.
Yeah.
So even though it's a loss, I don't think it's like a hard loss.
Right.
All right. Unless any of those guys are in the channel, just hop in and ask your question later. Just whenever you get a word in. We got Kyle 321. Xatu Raichu as before, Alolan Muck, Spiritomb, and Shiftry. So kind of what we've been recommending so far.
The only problem is this one is a bit weak to Drapion.
Yes.
Because that beats both Alolan Muck and Shiftry. And obviously beats Spiritomb as well. And has generally good matchups against those psychic types too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'd also preface that, Alolan Muck for Drapion, I guess in this case, isn't like required. It would just you would be a little bit better off if you were to choose Drapion and Shiftry, and then Alolan Muck and Alolan Raticate. It's just it's not necessarily a deal breaker for this team. It would just be something for you to watch out for. So if you're under
Yeah,
budget
it's
constraints, it's
yeah,
not
it's
like
kind of
you absolutely have to change that. So
yeah, it's just kind of a thing of like general coverage where, the pairs that we have been recommending seem to complement each other a little better and make you generally like have more balanced matchups against all the dark types. Whereas if you went with an alternative pairing, you're going to be a bit weaker to like one specific dark type, where you'll still have like an answer maybe, but that might be all you have. So it's something you'll have to play around.
yeah,
And I mean, it's another pair that we kind of hadn't mentioned, but it seems like a lot of people are sort of limited in their options. They're trying to, save by not going for Drapion or something like that. And you could do like a last resort Umbreon with an Alolan Muck as well, if you didn't want to, say, spend for an Alolan Raticate. Those two pair well also.
Right, but Umbreon can also be expensive potentially.
Yeah, I just figured some people might have it from like Twilight potentially.
or even Freestyle early on
Right.
before Metachan was a thing. It's Smogon Devo has basically one of the teams we've been recommending, Alolan Muck and Raticate pairing.
Instead of the Shiftry.
So, yeah. So, if you're interested in that discussion, we basically covered it in previous team recs. No obvious openings on that team. Tambillo, it's got the same psychic typing, and then he's got, Drapion and Shiftry. So, again, kind of a positive pairing that we've been recommending so far. And Control Alt Deplete strays away from his the regular Alolan Raichu in favor for Hypno. Do any of you guys have what Hypno variant he's running specifically, whether Side Shock or Shadow Ball?
I'm just gonna assume it's Shadow Ball.
All right. While you guys are just double check that for me if he's mentioned it at all. He's got Alolan Muck, Spiritomb, Alolan Raticate, so kind of has that favorable coverage lineup there, and Toxicroak.
Hypno is
It's Future Sight.
no.
Future Sight Focus
Oh,
Blast.
Future Sight Hypno.
Yep.
I was reading it wrong. He's got Skuntank, Umbreon, and Shiftry. So forget what I said earlier.
Okay, yeah, so the Hypno has Future Sight, so I'm going to suggest dropping that then, because with Future Sight and Focus Blast, I'm guessing, I haven't simmed it, but I'm guessing Hypno's kind of dead in the water against any other Psychic type, because most of its moves are going to be resisted by all the Psychic types. I think its best shot is like a neutral Focus Blast against Bronzong, but that's really slow.
And he's got nothing to bait with either, without Side Shock or Shadow Ball.
Right.
It's
It's gonna
That's
take
just like-
forever to get there.
Yeah, that's just really slow. And the Future Sight isn't really needed because you already have Confusion. Like, Confusion's going to kill any fighting types.
yeah.
We'll say
That's
also.
the problem with. Yeah, Polly.
Oh, I was just gonna say, tell him to TM the Dynamic Punch to Sludge Bomb on his Toxicroak,
Oh yeah.
and if he can afford it, unlock the second move on Xatu.
Oh,
Right
it
now
was
he's-
only a single move, Xatu.
Yeah, he's just running Aerial Ace.
I mean, this team would be workable with perhaps an Alolan Raichu or a Claydol. And let me just make sure I'm reading the right one. Yeah, and then the second moves that we recommended. I'm not I'm not convinced about Skuntank, so probably better off with something else, like Drapion, for example.
Yeah, I mean, if
But
this is
it
all
would
he
be at
can
least worthwhile.
afford, if this is all he can afford, like I mean, he can make do with it. But I think that really any of the other main meta psychics over Hypno would be an improvement. And I think
If
Alolan Muck or Drapion over Skuntank would be an improvement.
yeah, if he's under budget constraints, I would say even like dropping one of the dropping Hypno and putting in Alolan Raichu, which is pretty cheap anyway. And then
Yeah,
maybe even bluffing Claydol. Like if you can't afford any of the other dark types, drop one of them, like Skuntank, for example, and maybe you could bluff Claydol completely, and he'd still have a lot of the effect he still has. Would you guys agree?
So drop Skuntank and bluff Claydol? Or run Claydol?
Drop Skuntank and Hypno, add Raichu, and bluff Claydol.
Oh, yeah.
I think that could work.
Yeah.
I mean, Claydol doesn't necessarily need 2 moves. If you are on budget constraints, you can just get by with Earthquake and save it for no shield scenarios. But again, that requires some testing because you need to actually time out your Earthquakes.
Right.
I also don't mind Skuntank. Like, if that's all he can afford right there, I mean, it is nice to have Skuntank for Alolan Muck, which beats both Shiftry and Umbreon. So it's not bad
Yeah.
if he wants to run Triple Dark there and say can't afford Drapion.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's true.
I think Hypno to Alolan Raichu would be the big change if possible.
Yeah, and it's still cheap. It's not legacy.
Okay. And then we had a question from the Discord chat. Brady Shady was asking, he said, so is Claydol going to be better than Bronzong? He says he guess he must have missed that discussion earlier.
Yeah. It's just generally speaking, I'd say Claydol has a huge effect of not, of an opponent not wanting to run Alolan Raichu and Toxicroak together. Just its mere presence there, even if you don't bring it. Whereas Bronzong doesn't really have any like very oppressive effect, in your team comps. So
I agree. And also Bronzong, depending on the rest of your team comp, can really encourage an Alolan Raichu because most people are going to be running Xatu. And Alolan Raichu beats both Xatu and Bronzong. And assuming maybe if you're running triple psychic, then your third is Alolan Raichu, which is just a mirror. And then you have Toxicroak, which is kind of an even matchup. And so if you're running Bronzong and you don't have Shiftry, then you're pretty open to Alolan Raichu.
Yeah. Not necessarily like one better than the other, but if gun to the head, most of us would choose Claydol over Bronzong for here. Passam and Holden McGroin have the same team. Hypno, Alolan Muck, Spiritomb, Shiftry, Toxicroak, and Lucario. So this is the first team of the day without Xatu or Alolan Raichu. What do you guys think? Is Hypno
by the
enough
way,
to oppress the psychic?
fun fact, Passam is the actual Discord name for Holden McGroin. So it's the same person. But anyways.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah,
So we
one
just
is
played
like
it
their
twice.
Yeah.
Okay. So never mind.
Anyways, Hypno as the only psychic type, huh?
I mean, you'd be bringing Hypno quite a bunch. And
they do
it's
have
nice to
Spiritomb,
have.
though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what Lucario brings to this team, if I'm honest. That another psychic type wouldn't already. Perhaps like Alolan Raichu.
Yeah, I just feel like if you're running triple dark, it's more balanced if you have 2 psychic types.
Yeah.
Because with Lucario, you're just adding something else that is weak against Toxicroak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Spiritomb helps a little bit against Toxicroak, so there is
It
that.
helps a little bit, but like I just don't know if it's enough. Because Toxicroak's so popular. And to have basically Hypno as a hard counter, Spiritomb as a check, and a Toxicroak mirror as your only answers to the most popular Mon in the meta.
I wonder if this team like is planning to use Spiritomb a lot, because like just looking at like his choice in darks and bringing the 2 fighters, it seems like he really wants to discourage the Alolan Raticate like farm. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like he wants to like convince you not to bring Alolan Raticate, so he feels safe bringing Spiritomb and avoiding like a farm.
Yeah.
Because both of his
That's one
darks
of the-
counter Alolan Raticate, and he's got 2 fighters.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that
maybe
is one of the
he's-
comments that we had on the live stream chat.
Oh, really?
is-
Yeah.
Yeah, that it is favorable to bring 2 fighters when you have Spiritomb because of exactly those mind games you just said.
Yeah, and someone on Discord was saying that it makes sense to run 2 fighters with Spiritomb since darks are Spiritomb's biggest weakness.
And then somebody on the Twitch side mentioned that they can switch out Lucario to Poliwrath if you want another fighting type that can survive a bit longer.
That's true.
But then that makes the team a lot weaker to Xatu. I mean, it was already fairly weak to Xatu.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true
Right.
actually, because Alolan Muck, assuming it's Poison Jab, doesn't have the best Xatu matchup. And Shiftry loses to Xatu. But I guess
As does
I would...
Hypno, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I would agree that running 2 fighting can help if you're running Spiritomb, because that helps discourage the dark types. But I don't know, it just feels to me like if you want to run Spiritomb and 2 fighting, you're better off running a 2-2-2 as opposed to going with the 3-2-1, only having 1 psychic.
Especially if that psychic's Hypno.
I mean, but
Yeah.
either Lucario or Poliwrath do okay against Xatu. I mean, Lucario
Right.
in a Shadow Ball is pretty bad for Xatu, and then Poliwrath getting in a Ice Punch or Hydro Pump is also pretty bad with enough energy gain to get to it too.
Ice Punch
Yeah.
would have to be boosted, though, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
It's
you
not
could,
like unreasonable though.
you could double Ice Punch the Xatu to death, but the chances of that happening are slim.
Yeah. All right. Professor Koos, instead of Hypno, has Alolan Raichu now, Skuntank, Alolan Muck, and Drapion. So triple Dark Poison, Toxicroak, and Lucario. I mean, immediately, I'm thinking Alolan Raticate against these guys. I mean, he does have those, 2 fighting types, but wouldn't
Yeah.
Alolan Raticate be a big threat to this team? Polly, you were
Yeah.
gonna say something?
I mean, Alolan Raticate, it loses to the 2 fighters and then possibly Alolan Muck based off or depending on the breakpoint. I don't know, definitely Tox though, right? I mean, Tox just crushes this team.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, Toxicroak. I mean, I don't know how I missed that. I mean, once the other guy's Toxicroak is out of the way, I mean, you just really have to pray you can get a favorable energy situation with Alolan Raichu against that other guy's Toxicroak.
Yeah. Or Mirror.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, otherwise it's GG. Yeah, I'm not convinced about triple Dark Poison at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of modifications we could make to balance this out, but I don't know. I don't think that this would be winning any tournaments, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think you definitely need another Psychic there that's not, because Alolan Raichu is the Psychic that's weakest to Toxicroak. You got to have something that's going to give Tox some, hesitation.
Right, because
Yeah.
the best you have right now is Alolan Raichu as a check to Toxicroak and a Toxicroak mirror.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Toxicroak beats the other 4. So right now Toxicroak has 2 neutral matchups and 4 positive matchups.
I mean, basically, if I got CMP and I have Toxicroak, I'm winning, right? I mean, because Alolan Raichu's a CMP tie at 1 shield and then the mirror. So, yeah, I think Toxicroak could run through that team for sure.
Yeah, so I think to make the easiest switch, like if you were just making one change, would probably be drop Skuntank and then pick up another Psychic type, whether that be like Xatu or Claydol or even Bronzong, but preference going to Xatu.
Yeah, and then if you can, even like a single move Shift Tree to pair with Drape would be good. Depending on what the Psychic, like assuming you choose like Xatu or maybe you recycle like a Bronzong or something like that. I think it'd be nice to add something to sort of wall Alolan Raichu. So maybe getting like that Drape Shift Tree pairing that we've talked a lot about might be good.
Right, I agree, but if not, I mean, Amok, depending on that breakpoint, can still beat Alolan Raticate. So if you had to do an Amok Drapion pairing, that wouldn't be the worst thing.
Right. And I mean, it looks like, based off of his screenshot, that he only has single charge moves on all of these. I'm not sure if he's just waiting to unlock till he like finalizes his team or what. But if you're looking for budget options, Alolan Raichu's got a cheap second move unlock. Shift Tree, you can get away with just a single charge. So those are a couple that I definitely focus on trying to incorporate.
Yeah. Well, the next team is Sand Pirate, and his Psychic type is Bronzong. His 3 darks are Skuntank, Umbreon, Shift Tree. And he's got Toxicroak and Hitmonchan. I'll note that Hitmonchan has Ice Punch and Pup. And everything else is standard except he's got Snarl and Foul Play on Umbreon. No Last Resort. And he'd be bluffing Last Resort, basically.
I just don't think Umbreon without Last Resort is worth considering here. I mean, I see, in my opinion, it's like questionable if it's even one of the best dark types with Last Resort. I'm kind of back and forth on that, but without Last Resort, it then loses to all the other dark types, which I think just isn't really good enough.
Right. Yeah, bluffing Last Resort isn't necessarily like as good as like bluffing a Claydol or bluffing a certain other charge moves. Because Last Resort is more of a last ditch effort to do neutral damage against other dark types, namely Shift Tree, I guess. So I don't know. I'm not.
Well, doesn't
I'm not sold
Umbreon
on
beat
it
the
either.
Dark Poisons? With Last Resort?
Yeah.
Yep.
But without it, it doesn't. So.
Yeah.
But even with Last Resort, wouldn't you just tank a whatever his dark move is? Or Last Resort, you would just tank a Last Resort in the first shield, generally speaking.
Probably. Especially if it was like matched up against, say, another Umbreon or Eradicate. It's definitely going to be, those are definitely going to be tanking at least one charge move, if not like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Especially if they see you using, Dark Pulse the first 2 times. That's not going to be doing as much damage, so then they're going to be like, oh, even if it is Last Resort, I can tank this third one.
Right.
Because both Umbreon and Alolan Raticate are so tanky. Or if you end up in those matches, I think they're just going to tank it out.
So, in terms of like changes, like what would you guys do? I'm thinking like drop Umbreon for maybe another Psychic, since he's got the 2 fighters. I think I'd like 2 Psychics over 1 Psychic.
I mean, a better counter to Toxicroak probably Xatu, maybe.
Yeah, I'd like Xatu there. And he's got Shift, so that's okay to run Bronze and Xatu, because you have the Alolan Raichu covered.
Yeah.
Better with Shift.
So probably drop the Umbreon in favor of a Xatu.
Cool.
Yeah. Alright. Next team is also a little different. It's got Alolan Raichu, Alolan Raticate, Spiritomb, Drapion, and then Toxicroak, Primeape. Primeape has Counter, Cross Chop, Night Slash. Everything else is standard, as far as I can see. Yeah. Everything else is standard.
I mean, I think
You
the
guys
same.
yeah.
I think the
Have
same
you guys had any
pattern.
experience against Primeape in scrims before we go into like the specific team?
Not in scrims, but the only thing that I think of is Legacy Primeape with actually Cross Chop could be a threat. But aside from that, I don't think the non-Legacy variant has much going for it.
It is Legacy, this one. Cross Chop, Night Slash, so. And Tristan, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say this is kind of following the similar pattern with some of these other ones we've covered that are only running 1 Psychic, which is, and only running Alolan Raichu as the 1 Psychic, is that they're just fairly open against Toxicroak.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is the same problem as the next team.
Yeah, I'm just not sure I'm sold on running triple dark with 2 double fighting.
So they say in their comment too, not sure yet if I want to swap out Raticate for a different dark type, or maybe even Xatu or Claydol. So, because their Raticate's not powered up yet, so would you guys recommend that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the pretty obvious switch.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. Yeah, the last team has kind of similar problems in that it's running Crawdaunt, with in that middle dark spot, and he's got Poliwrath, I guess. It just comes back to the Toxicroak problem. He's so prevalent. I mean, not a single team doesn't have Toxicroak in all of our submissions, except for one, and he changed it. So, yeah, if you don't have a few good answers to Toxicroak, it's not going to work out for you.
And the other thing I'm seeing is he's running Crawdaunt with Poliwrath, and Alolan Raichu. So that's 3 right there that lose to Shiftry.
Yeah.
And he's running Shiftry, so that's a Shiftry mirror, which means if you run Shiftry against that team, you're looking at 3 positive matchups in a mirror match, and only losing to Toxicroak and Skuntank.
And potentially Alolan Raichu has a lot of really good matchups against that too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, maybe a Shift Bronze combo might give him a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I was thinking that because Bronze would deal with the Skuntank and Toxicroak,
Yeah.
and Shift could deal with the rest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think both of those teams are kind of falling under the similar category of I just am not a fan of running triple dark, double fighting, and only one psychic. But I guess if you're really set on running that team composition, then your one psychic cannot be Alolan Raichu. It has to be a Toxicroak counter.
Yeah, I generally don't even like the one psychics because Toxicroak's just too prevalent. Definitely not if you don't have Spiritomb as one of the darks to also kind of soft counter Toxicroak. But
Right. Yeah, and the biggest problem with running one psychic is that means your opponent kind of knows for sure that that's what you're going to run to counter Toxicroak.
right.
Which means they can prep and pick out mons that specifically can target that one psychic type along with other mons in your team. Which I think is just it's just becoming too predictable.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So I really think that if you want to run double fighting, that you need to be looking at a 2-2-2 setup.
Yeah. Which gives us a good segue into the next teams. We got the 2-2-2s. We are reaching the end of this, so unfortunately we will not be able to reach the submissions after the little marker I made. We'll try to do another one of these sessions before because we got so many submissions in today. That being said, we have McMahon's 59. He's running Lunatone and Raichu for the psychic spots. Skuntank Shiftry for dark. Toxicroak Hitmonchan for fighting. Trying to find his specific move sets. But on the surface, what do you guys think?
I mean, I'm not sold on Lunatone. Granted, I'm not too familiar with it, so I guess it does have that kind of surprise factor where people won't be prepared for it. But I'm not sure how great it is. And pairing that with Alolan Raichu, it seems like he might be a bit weak to Toxicroak.
Yeah, what I like about confusion users, and you guys back me up here or call me out if I'm wrong, is being able to just like switch in against Toxicroak, like while he's charging a move. So you basically like just you tank the Mud Bomb or Sludge Bomb or whatever it is, and then you switch in the confusion user and finish him up. Lunatone would take super effective damage from Mud Bomb. So
and
at
also
least
take neutral from counter too.
That's true. So I don't know. I mean, it probably still beats it just because of that double super effective confusion against it. But I think a lot of Lunatones are running Rock Throw. Is that true? I don't know. I haven't seen many Lunatone, to be honest.
I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
I think the set has to be confusion for it to.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does have, so it has Moonblast and probably Rock Slide as its 2 charge moves.
Yeah, because the other one's Psychic.
So it's
Psychic.
So it is one of those psychics, one of those handful of psychics like Gallade, Mr. Mime, Gardevoir that beats Toxicroak in 3 confusions rather than 4. So Toxicroak doesn't even get to a Mud Bomb if they start
true.
equal energy. I'm not. I can sim real quick and see if Mud Bomb takes it out.
And he doesn't have declared movesets on these, so we just kind of have to guess with this.
It can tank 1 Mud Bomb. It does half health. It takes pretty much 50% of its
Oh,
health.
really?
Yeah.
Well, that's better. I suppose.
I mean, I guess
if
that's
it beats it with
decent
3
then.
confusions, then it it does the work that like Hypno or whoever it would do against Tox.
Right.
Yeah, but then I mean, I think it's a decent team overall. But I mean, again, we're back to Skuntank probably being the inferior of the 3 dark poisons, and then running Hitmonchan, who, in my opinion, is generally inferior to Poliwrath or Lucario.
Yeah.
So I think it's workable, but
I think the biggest problem with this team is that you're gonna run Lunatone like almost the whole time. So,
well, the problem.
Toxicroak.
So, I'm just simming some because I'm like you guys. I'm not familiar with Lunatone. It loses hard to Shiftry, like really hard.
Oh yeah.
And let's see. It ties Bubble Poliwrath in 1 shield. So that's not great either.
Also, I'm assuming I'm gonna assume it struggles against Bronzong too. Because Bronzong resists Psychic, Rock, and Fairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Bronzong beats Skuntank. And it beats Toxie and Hitmonchan.
Bronzong beats Lunatone pretty hard.
So you're basically stuck relying on Alolan Raichu and Shiftry as your only Bronzong answers.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think this team would improve radically just changing Lunatone to Xatu. I mean, it's boring in that everybody's using Xatu, but it'd certainly help you. Do you guys have anything else to talk about this lineup?
No, I think that's good.
All right, DD Miranda, I gotta give you props because you chose one of our trash can picks.
Oh man!
You got Xatu and Grumpig, our first trash pick of today. Alolan Muck, Drapion, and Toxicroak and Lucario. I'm saying trash pick because we put it in the trash can in our infographic for Reddit. Grumpig. I mean, we're just gonna bash Grumpig for a little while now. It's just not very good. That's just the bottom line. Charge Beam doesn't really do anything for you. I believe the other move is Extra Sensory, which isn't amazing either. And then you have Mirror Coat, is it? What is
Yep.
Shadow Ball and Mirror Coat?
Yep, those two.
Shadow Ball, Psychic, and Mirror Coat.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't even know what Mirror Coat does, to be honest with you.
It makes your opponent laugh and maybe drop their phone. So that's a meta right
It's
there.
super effective.
Yeah. But yeah, Grumpig. I mean, even Shiny. I think you're hurting yourself too much with Grumpig. That specific in most matchups. It doesn't flip the psychic matchups as much as you think with Shadow Ball.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of other good options here. Like, I think Alolan Raichu would probably be an easy one to slot into that spot. You could also go with Claydol or Bronzong.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, again, running the double dark poisons. I think if you are running 2 dark poisons, Alolan Muck and Drapion are the best pair. But I think you might be better dropping one of them in favor of like an Alolan Raticate or a Shiftry if those are options.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so Grumpig, trash pick. Sorry if that's like one of your favorites, but Grumpig is just not so great. That being said, we have the last team of the night. Jan Ho 89, Hypno Raichu, Skuntank Spiritomb, and then Toxicroak Lucario. Normally, in these 2-2-2s, you just gotta have to watch out for Toxicroak matchups. But Hypno and Spiritomb in there kind of do a good job against Toxicroak. And then your other dark types that would generally beat Spiritomb and Skuntank are well countered with your other two fighting types. And then Alolan Raichu can kind of get in a bait every now and then on those.
Yeah, I mean, I
What do
think
you
it's
guys
pretty
think?
for a 2-2-2. I think it's pretty solid. I mean, I think we're kind of broken record here, but again, Skuntank maybe being swapped out for Drapion or Alolan Muck would be better. And then I don't know, but I think besides that, I think it works well.
Right.
Yeah, kind of to go off of that. I just never like it whenever, like, I can pick a dark that beats their psychics and their darks, and that's kind of what you have when you choose Skuntank, is that Alolan Raticate could kind of cover all four of those with just worrying about the fighters.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was the last team of the night. I understand there's quite a few other teams that were submitted after we made this spreadsheet today. We will try to get to those ideally before this next tournament weekend, but we just can't promise that. And believe it or not, a lot of us do have lives, except for Mason, outside of Pokemon. But we will try to get to those and a lot of the other.
Hey! Be fair here. Mason has a life. His life consists of tagging at Ultra with Valor Ash.
And then reverse tagged his Camerupt.
Yeah.
But that's gone now. We can't tag Camerupt.
Something.
I kind of miss it. I felt love with it.
Something to that effect will come back. I promise you guys. But we do want to thank you guys for tuning in, and the popularity of the stream grows every day, and it's just been awesome. We can't wait for the next meta today to dissect. It's been really fun. But with that being said, any last questions from the stream chat or the Discord?
Nothing from Discord, but I just wanted to add that I think the next stream will, we haven't decided for sure, but it'll either be a regional team review or maybe just a regional meta discussion. Kind of flipping gears to regionals since we've put a decent amount more stream time into Nightmare at this point, and a lot of people seem wanting some more attention on regionals.
Along that same vein, the post should be up tonight or tomorrow at the latest on Silverina.
Yeah. Oh, and there is one more thing. If for anybody listening, I mean, I'll post this in the chat. When you submit your team submissions, submit a team. Don't submit 10 or 15 of the meta and expect us to choose it for you. We do have a channel on the Discord that can help you a little bit more with that. We just can't reasonably cover that. That's what our meta discussions are for. We can analyze teams specifically, but we're not able to, within our time constraints, choose a team for everybody's. Given 15 options, 10 options.
And one final thing to note, thank you to our first Twitch subscriber, SDub220, and hopefully we will be putting out more content like this, and we'll be gaining more subscribers in time. And we're working on custom badges right now.
That's me.
Here, here.
No, I'm just kidding. It's not me.
Well, you wouldn't get a badge then.
All right, Quartz, whenever you're ready.
Alright, I think we're set. We're gonna go give Tomis a raid. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Awesome.
Alright.
All right, went a little bit longer than I wanted, but